Hi everyone, my name is Dale Addy and I am presenting my campaign for Project B in Graphic Design Studio Media Practice. My topic for this informational campaign is gardening. As a little bit of a background, growing your own vegetables used to be a way of life. It wasn't unusual even for folks in suburban areas to have small gardens. But today people have gotten a lot busier and have forgotten about gardening. While everyone is concerned about the type of food they're eating, that it's not healthy or it's not organic, which really organic is just a nice way of saying it's not laden with dyes and harmful chemicals and pesticides, the perception is that farming is only for older folks. But with the rise of farm-to-table restaurants growing in popularity, gardening's making a little bit of a comeback. Because of this, I realized the need. The best way to get organic food that's healthy for you is to raise your own. Most people do not have a clue on how to start a garden if they wanted to. Most think it's very difficult or extremely time-consuming. They think it's cheaper just to buy it from an organic market. But that's not necessarily the case. Gardens are not extremely labor-intensive. They can actually be a huge cost savings over organic markets. And gardens take a relatively little investment to begin. So, armed with this knowledge, I decided to create the Feed Thyself campaign. The target demographic I'm speaking to are adults aged 35 to 54. They believe in eating healthy. This demographic skews female. They would be the upper middle class socioeconomically, and they tend to be homeowners, simply for the reason that they have a little bit of land that they could possibly use to create a garden. Competition for this campaign is really just self-doubt. Most people think that gardening is hard, and they would try something new if they felt like that they could do it successfully without too much pain and suffering. So we're trying to overcome that, to say, you know what, it's maybe not quite as hard as you think. Initially, when I was thinking about this campaign, I planned on a very sort of in-your-face guerrilla campaign that would be implemented in grocery store parking lots and, as intercepts where people buy supposedly fresh and healthy produce. But I decided against that tactic since this is more of an educational campaign rather than a hard sell. And I felt like that affront to the viewer might be a little off-putting. So instead I decided to implement an on-site display at local farmers markets. While this may seem like I'm preaching to the choir, so to speak, this is the heart of the target demographic. These people go to these farmers markets. These people already see the need to eat healthy, so why not encourage them to try their hand at growing their own food as well? Initially, I developed a logo and icon for the Feed Thyself movement. I chose to work a hand-created feel through it, as well as through all the print pieces, to add to the organic, approachable feeling. The icon, while it is a little harder edge and cleaner, it's only used as a watermark from time to time in the collateral. But I can see that it might have applications elsewhere, like embroidered or branded materials down the road. Once the logo was complete, I moved on to my main element that the target audience will engage with, and that is a 4-foot by 6-foot dimensional display fabricated to look like a privacy fence. I chose this component because it has a little bit of a suburban feel to it. And then I hand-painted that fence panel with a message that food should come from the earth, not from a can. This hand-painted feel is very reminiscent of the Sea Rock City barn paintings popular in farming areas in the southern states. Along with this message, I incorporated literature holders for the display. As I mentioned earlier, I wanted all phases of this campaign to have an approachable, light-hearted feel to it. So, for that reason, I created ink and watercolor illustrations that were implemented throughout all the pieces. I stayed away from big, pretty photography. I wanted it to have a lot more of a hand-created feel. The first print component was a 5-inch by 8-inch 6-panel brochure that has a self-mailing side so that it can double as a direct mail piece if need be. This brochure gives tips on how to plan and start a garden, including the tools that will be needed. I also created seed packets that carry the pertinent information on how to plant the enclosed seeds, but also drove traffic to the website through the use of a QR code on the back. These seed packets will be given away as a nudge to encourage the viewer to consider starting their own garden. All of these print components, as well as the display, drive the viewer to the website, and that's the main carrier of all the information. The website is a 5-page microsite at this point that talks about gardening, what it takes to start a garden, and gives the viewer further resources on how to start their own garden. Originally, I planned to have web videos that show step-by-step processes and gives tips along the way. While I still think this is a very good idea and a viable option, I had to delay that implementation simply because of the time of the year. Being late winter, it's not conducive to shooting gardening topics. I set up the display at a local farmer's market here in Franklin, Tennessee, and photographed the reactions of people as they engaged with it. Several people engaged with the display and took literature. I also spoke with some of the people that looked at the display, and they all received it very positively and agreed that it's a very important message that they would like to learn more about. So what's the ultimate takeaway on this? Do I think that this campaign will spark a rash of home gardening and reignite the family farm that has been lost over the generations? Probably not. My biggest hope is that whether people decide to grow their own food or not, that they consider where their food is coming from and seek out healthier options. For me, this campaign started out as a way to reconnect with some family members that farm and have gardens. But as I've gotten into it, I've seen that this has the potential to be a much larger movement that I hope to develop further. Thank you.